Hey, hey, what's good? Happy, what is it, Monday? So, I'm Jill Munroe, an entertainment journalist, host, producer, all of the things. I'm on live Monday through Friday on KBLA Talk 1580. So, let's get into the details of the Diddy trial, day one, opening statements, and the first two witnesses, because there was so much that went down today, so very much that, to get into it, get ready. So, first of all, right, let's start with the fact that um it was an interesting opening statement, right? So, first the jury was picked. They didn't select the jury on Friday because they were worried about cold feet. They felt that if they selected the jurors on Friday, that by the time Monday came, some of the jurors might change their mind, might decide that this wasn't for them. They didn't want to participate. So, let me break down the jury pool for you, what was selected, because yeah, it's crazy. So, essentially, what we have is 8 men, 4 women. Notably, the prosecution dismissed 7 black jurors from the case, and the defense felt that there was some racism to that, but nonetheless, they have their jury: 8 men, 4 women. 4 of the men are men of color, doesn't say black specifically. Uh, all of the women are women of color. Once again, we don't know the race, if you were wondering, but they have been chosen. That was announced. So we got to opening statements today. And, the prosecution started off basically saying, Diddy was a monster, right? He hosted these freak offs. He forced them in these situations that they talked about Cassie, who is victim number one, who is probably going to testify tomorrow. We already saw, well, they showed some of the video in court, and I'll get to that because two of the witnesses that were called today, the first was the former security guard of the Intercontinental Hotel where that video of Cassie being beat up by Diddy took place. And the other witness was a male escort that had several freak offs over an extended period of time, I think like 2 years, with Diddy and Cassie. So those were the two witnesses that testified today. So, prosecution's opening statements, they talked about the fact that Diddy forcibly told these ex-workers, one of them, to urinate in Cassie's mouth and that Cassie almost choked on it. We got a version of those events from the witness. So I'll get into the details of that. But basically, they kicked out all of the information. The prosecution's position: Diddy is a monster. He was trafficking these people, forcing them into these positions. The defense has come out with, yes, Diddy and Cassie had a volatile relationship. Basically, that they were toxic to each other, that they are admitting, obviously there's a video, but they're admitting to the domestic violence. They're saying that Diddy was violent, he had jealousy issues, and that was the nature of their relationship on both their parts, that there was as much abuse from Cassie to Diddy as there was from Diddy to Cassie, allegedly. They are not backing away from that. They said that Diddy was abusive, that he may not have been the nicest person, that he has an unconventional sexual lifestyle, which Cassie was a willing and active participant in, and that all of that still doesn't equate to him being involved in ex trafficking, and that is not what they are trying to put on trial here. So the first witness was the former security guard from the Intercontinental Hotel. His name was Israel. Let me get his last name. At any rate, he was the assistant supervisor at the time, and then eventually supervisor. He now works for the LAPD. It should be noted that he did mention that he recorded some of the Cassie video on his phone and took it home and showed it to his wife. So that's just a side note. He said that on the main servers, there's no rewind. Like, only an upper level executive could rewind or access the footage to do anything with it. What we didn't see on the CNN tape is that Cassie allegedly picked up the hotel phone and called and asked for help or something to that nature. This security guard came up, and when he stepped, because the report was there was a woman, they thought that she needed help on this floor. So when he stepped off of the elevators, he said Diddy was right there in his face, and that Diddy tried to charge Cassie. He said that this altercation was over a phone. It wasn't so much about her leaving, it was about her trying to leave with this phone, which was his property. And the security guard was like, well, you guys can't, do this in the hallway or whatever. He followed them back to the room, which he said Cassie went voluntarily. He was like, she can't leave with my stuff. And she was like, I just want to leave. But he said that she did walk with him back to the room. So he followed them to the room, and he said Diddy tried to close the door in his face. He stuck his foot in the door jamb. And he said when he could see inside the suite that there was a man that was seated on the bed. He specifically said on the bed, and that he was just kind of sitting there oblivious while the Cassie and Diddy were arguing back and forth. And Brian Steele, I believe is his name, one of Diddy's attorneys, pointed out, he said, well, what was the layout of the room? And the security guard couldn't answer. And he was like, you remember all these details of this night, but you can't remember what the room looked like. And he pointed out that Diddy stays in a presidential suite. The security guard said, sixth floor, a presidential suite at the Intercontinental doesn't happen. So, but he was in a suite. And I guess apparently the distinction was that the gentleman that he saw seated was actually seated on a couch convertible bed. So you know you have the couches that fold out and they become beds. That's where this gentleman was seated. So he's saying that's how he could see into the room. He said that he asked Cassie repeatedly if she wanted the police called. She said that she didn't, that she just wanted to leave. He said a car pulled up that seemingly was there to pick her up. The implication from the prosecution was that this car was someone sent by Diddy, not that she was leaving on her own will and that she was free to go as she pleases, because she did leave the venue. So let me see what happened. So the security guard says that he went to go get some information so that he could file a report. And when he got back to file the report, Cassie was gone. So that's why there was no report filed. He did not make an effort to contact the police or to do anything of that nature. I guess because it was a private incident. He said that Diddy offered him like a stack of money, like the length of your arm, cash. I guess during that time period, Diddy had someone go to, I don't know, an ATM, or he kept money in the room. I'm not sure why he just had access to this money, but he did. And he offered it to the guard. He said that the guard turned him down. The lawyer ascertains that the money was because the security told him that he was going to have to pay for the broken vase and the other items that he broke while this altercation was going on. He said that Diddy tried to charge at him and snatch his phone, accusing him of recording him, and that he had to pin Diddy up against the wall and tell him he was only taking pictures of the damage for a report. So I'm trying to think. Let me look through my notes because I did make notes. So how I could gather this information is that there are several outlets that have been allowed to sit in the gallery and take notes. As we know, there's no phones allowed. You get your phones taken. When you go in, they give you this gold token. You turn your phone in and you get your phone back at the end of the time. So you have to take diligent notes. So I've watched a couple of different places of individuals that have been in the courtroom, and that's where I'm getting all of this information. Plus I read a couple of the documents that have been put out. So let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Israel Flores is the name of the security guard, and he said that he saw Diddy pacing back and forth on the security cameras, but he didn't see the woman. So that's what made him run up to the sixth floor where they were staying. Flores also said that why would Diddy would offer to bribe it, the prosecution asked why Diddy would offer to bribe in the first place if he was doing nothing wrong. And the officer stated that Diddy didn't want it being released and confirmed that the video has gaps in it due to the cameras on the floor motion sensor situation. So there is not a complete start to finish per se video of this incident because it's triggered by motion and movement in different parts of the floor. So there is more to the video than what was seen on CNN. We already know that, but there are still gaps in the situation. So that's effectively what was said by witness number one, Israel, who was the security guard at the time. Now, the next one is the one that kind of has everybody buzzing. It's obviously a male dancer. He was involved in the freak offs. And so what was happening was he said he was brought in by an agency. I believe the name of the agency was Angels and Cowboys. It's an escort agency. Just to be clear, escorting is legal. It's like companionship. So you are not paying for them to be physically attentive to you. You are paying for company, like someone to accompany you to a date or something like that. Well, at any rate, this dancer was hired to come to dance for what he thought was a bridal shower or something to that event. So after whatever he danced, right, he said Cassie paid him and tipped him $2,000. And she asked him if he was interested in, possibly earning some more money in a private situation, right? So, of course, he said yes. So, some things happen. He ends up in this bedroom. He said that a gentleman who was Diddy, and he said he knew it was Diddy because of the speaking voice. He said he's heard Diddy for years on records and videos and interviews, so he knows Diddy's voice. And that Diddy was sitting in a corner in a white bathrobe, bandana around his face, so you could only see his eyes, and he had a New York hat on, pulled down low. And that he was in the corner telling them what to do. Cassie had on a wig and some stockings so that he wouldn't know who they were. And they basically asked, was he interested in a different type of party? He said that when he asked Diddy what line of work he was in, or the gentleman, he said imports and exports, which is crazy now because of what he's being accused of, trafficking, right? But so he said that they were there, that Diddy was giving instructions on what to do. He said that the prosecution asked him how long the encounter was. And he was like, not long. Basically, he got it off. Now, what is important to note is that Diddy did not participate with them. He was in the room, he was watching, but he was in a chair handling his own business while they were having the situation. So he said that they had the one time thing. Now, he said that Cassie asked him to urinate in her mouth. He said that she asked him to do that. And that when he started to do it, he was doing it wrong because I guess he was just letting it all go. And they were like, no, 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 no. Both she and Diddy were like, no, you're not doing it right. You're supposed to just let it trickle out. Child, what? But anyway, so he said that whatever happened, the first encounter was quick. He left the hotel, and that when he got downstairs, he got a text from Cassie, and she asked him to send a picture of his package. And so the prosecution was like, and what did you do? He said, I sent it. So he sent it. And once he sent it, she was like, can you come back upstairs? And so then they went again. And he said this time he lasted much longer. Similar situation with Diddy observing in the corner, right? So he said that he saw them off and on for a number of years, maybe 2 years, that he saw them at hotels, various hotels around the city, at Cassie's penthouse and at Diddy's house, all in the New York tri-state area. He said that he enjoyed it. It wasn't about the money. He enjoyed being able to spend time, the clout of it, basically being with these two individuals. He also said that Cassie, when she asked him for his number, they both were like, excuse me, yeah, basically, your agency trips sometimes, and how can we get in touch with you directly? And, we'll pay extra, we'll pay well, all of these things. So he hooked up with them a lot. He said he started getting turned, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. So he said what started turning him off was when Diddy started to hit Cassie for what he deems being no reason. He said one time Diddy asked Cassie to come here and she didn't come right away. So he came out and grabbed her by her hair, flung her around like a rag doll, and was like, B, when I tell you to come, you move. And that they went in the room and they were arguing, and that she came running out and jumped in his lap. And he said that when she jumped in his lap, saying she was scared. Now, this sounds like some role play stuff. So let me take it back a second. He said that Diddy would instruct them with all the things. A lot of times he would be like, more baby oil. He would tell them, nope, you guys got to cool off, separate for a second, and then have them come back together, like really directing and orchestrating the scene of their encounter and interaction. But he did say that, when he was contacted, Cassie was the one that was reaching out to him the majority of the time. So he wanted them to role play one time and act like they were strangers that met in an airport and that they were going to go get it on. Well, the problem is, I guess neither one of them were very good actors. So Diddy got frustrated and told them to stop. So I bring that up in relation to this next piece that he said, because it kind of sounds like they were acting some things out and playing a role in this relationship. And this is kind of not this specific part, but the whole idea the defense is putting forward is that Cassie was an active and willing participant in all of this, and that she was into these things as well. So, like I said, she ran out of the room after they were in the room arguing when Diddy snatched her up, per this escort dancer, I should say, and locked her in the room, and they were arguing and whatever. And she came out, and he said that there was a rule, an unspoken rule, that they never kissed. They had never kissed before this point. But this particular time, when she was arguing with Diddy in the room, she ran out. And I should let it be known that this guy's name was Black. And they would often ask him to pick up like Astroglide or supplies on the way to the freak offs. He also was not allowed to wear a condom. Diddy said no. He asked Cassie to give him clean paperwork, and he submitted his. He said he never received that. So again, going back to this time when she jumped in his lap, they started kissing passionately, which never happened before. And that they ended up having sex right there. And of course, Diddy was lurking in the corner. And that after he and Cassie were done, he then, I guess Diddy told him to go in another room or something happened, and he then went and had his situation with Cassie after the dude had done his. He said he would direct him where to finish his business, sometimes on the stomach, sometimes on the chest, sometimes don't pull out. So it was graphic testimony. His family was there, his 3 daughters were there, his youngest daughter's mother, Love's mother, Dana, was there. His mom, Misa, Justin were all there. His daughters did leave the courtroom when this part of the testimony was going on, as they should, because even if you're saying that this is all consensual, nobody wants their kids to hear these acts. And I'm sure the children don't want to hear those acts. But the gentleman, the dancer, said that this particular time, that there were times where he would have to wait in the room while Diddy had sex with Cassie. Again, there was never any interaction where the man said that he was touched or, approached by Diddy sexually. So that should be noted, because I know there's a lot of conversation, but this is just one. We don't know what is further coming. He said he started to get turned off and could not really get it up anymore because of the way that Diddy was treating Cassie. He said sometimes he would text her. He also got very sad when asked why he didn't intervene in these times when Diddy was allegedly being handsy or violent. And he said he didn't know why. He said a lot of the time he just sat there. And from at least one source, they said he looked remorseful about not stepping up to help Cassie in those moments. He also indicated that though he was never threatened by Diddy, he felt that Diddy's bodyguards, who were always nearby, was in and of itself some type of intimidation towards him, particularly that, something could go down if he didn't get with the program. right? So when asked were drugs ever involved, he said that Diddy gave him Molly and that there was one occasion where he came through and Cassie was slumped over and they couldn't have sex. He alluded to her maybe having been overdosed or something like that, but obviously he's not a medical professional. There was no doctor called. He didn't say this, but that was implied. And he says that Diddy had an obsession with baby oil, and I told you that he even said he stopped him in the middle of sex one time because they needed to be oiled up at maximum levels. So there you go about the baby oil. Let me see what else. What else did he talk about? He, yeah, he said that they stopped hanging out a couple of years later. I think this went on for maybe 2 years. Oh, I should also mention that during opening statements, the prosecution mentioned, okay, what just happened here? Feel like I just did something weird happen with my internet. So the prosecution mentioned that an incident happened with Diddy and Cassie back in about 2011, 2012, where Diddy got jealous and he snatched her out of an event. There were several celebrities in attendance, allegedly. And when he got back to the SUV, he like stomped her out in there and beat her up. This particular incident was mentioned on the popular website message board Lipstick Alley not too long after this incident happened, like way back in 2011 stuff. I'm not saying they mentioned this in court. They didn't. This is just a side note, some extra tea, if you will. So basically, what happened was verbatim, it was in Cassie's lawsuit, her original one, this incident. And it also was a thread on Lipstick Alley where they laid out almost verbatim exactly what Cassie was ascertaining happened in the lawsuit, what was then mentioned today in the prosecution's opening statements. And this was back in 2011. So there are some things that are coming together. What I will say, what is interesting, first impressions, is what the defense has pointed out. And what is interesting is, though heinous, though wrong, and we all saw, yes, what Diddy did to Cassie in that video, domestic violence is not what he's being charged with here. And even if he were to be charged with that, that is a state crime, not a federal crime. So again, while it's not right, it's not okay, it is not what he's being charged with. He's being charged with trafficking and coercion and so forth. Victim number 3, we believe we've heard from victim number 3 before. So allegedly last week, she was ready to testify, down to use her name. But prosecution mentioned later last week during when jury pooling was first happening, that they had lost contact with victim number 3 and that she seemed to be backing out. So right now they don't know if she is going to testify. Now, what I can tell you is that victim number 3 seemingly, it hasn't been confirmed, but seemingly is the young lady that Young Miami was beefing with on Twitter, if you remember her. She also did an interview on Tasha K. I know her name. I'm not saying it just because, right now she's still a Jane Doe and she hasn't come forward. But the information is out there if you want to go poke around, but that is who it's sounding like victim number 3 is. And right now they said that she wouldn't be testifying until later on in the trial. The trial is expected to go at least 8 weeks, as been mentioned several times. So we'll see if she turns back up. But yeah, that's basically the first day. What happened, what went on, already explosive, already some crazy details about that. Let me see if I missed anything else about the dancer's testimony because, I know you guys want to know. So, what is interesting about this case is that it is only a one person RICO charge. And for it to be a RICO, it has to be of an organization. So, who are the other members? Like, we know that we've heard about staff making calls, setting the room, drivers, things of that nature. But so far, none of those other individuals have been charged with anything yet. It is a one person RICO. When we saw this another time that dealt with a celebrity, R. Kelly. So, and it's the same court. So we will see what is going to happen. Um, the dancer also said that he used to text Cassie to kind of get Diddy's attention and say things like, I can't wait to screw you and stuff like that. But he said in reality, he was doing it because he was worried about Cassie and wanted to check in on her. And that the majority of times when he was contacted, it was by Cassie, and that they called him Black, and yeah, it was a lot going on. That's day one. Thank you guys that have tapped in and visited. I appreciate you. If you have any comments, chat them to me. I thought we would get something going in the chat and talk about it, but maybe next time. I plan to do pretty frequent updates on this. Don't know if this is a good time or not, but this is when I did it. Like I said, I'm an entertainment journalist on air, KBLA, Talk 1580 in LA, 6 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. But here I'm going to go into a little more detail, a little more graphic uh, as far as the case goes, and maybe some other things as things pop up. But yeah, so that's all the business from day one. Obviously, we can't wait to see what goes down tomorrow. As mentioned, there is a chance that Cassie could appear in court as soon as tomorrow. She is 6 months pregnant, and whew, that's going to be a lot. So thank you guys for tapping in. Leave me any comments or feedback. I appreciate you, and I'll be back with more details next time. Holla at your girl.